5 blockchains XRP investors need to worry about. Now, in reality, there's going to be a lot of competition here. It is a huge market. There's room for many to have success. But really, I want to break down who are the main blockchains that are going to be capturing market share within the payment space. And what's interesting, for the longest time within crypto, payments was kind of a dead use case. No one talked about it. No one cared about it. It was all metaverse, NFTs, DeFi, all that kind of stuff. But now at the forefront of blockchain adoption, now as we're getting regulations and we're actually getting ready to onboard massive institutional users, payments jump to the top of the stack. That is the hot spot within crypto. Of course, XRP perfectly positioned to capture a lot of that. Let's look at some of the other blockchains that really pose a threat to grab at least some of this. And again, we see 5 blockchains XRP investors need to worry about. You don't have to worry about anything. There's plenty out there of market share and growth for a lot of blockchains to capture. The number one biggest threat to take corridors is ETHEREUM L2s, not the mainnet itself, but these L2s are really capturing a lot of payments. Stellar XLM, back in the day, people would tell you, oh, well, Stellar is only for individuals and XRPs for institutions. That's nonsense. These are open source technologies, and they'll be used for a variety of purposes. The most interesting up here may be Bitcoin's Lightning Network. It's the worst technology out of all of this, but it still has success. Why? We're going to dig into that. Solana, of course. And the last one that really riled people up is Flare. And again, yes, they are complementary networks, but we're going to have to dig into this a little bit. I'll explain why that is somewhat of a threat to capture market share. All right, number one, ETHEREUM L2s base is quietly becoming the default plumbing for USDC distribution in the United States. Coinbase's distribution reach plus Circle's regulatory positioning means the domestic corridors Ripple would need are being wired up right now by, well, someone else, by Coinbase and Circle. Now, this is, again, more retail type of payments. And do we even care about that? Does Ripple care about that? Well, I don't know. But the actual problem, it's not tech. USDC on base has Coinbase distribution. RLUSD has no equivalent consumer distribution channel yet. Do we care about the consumer? Maybe so, maybe not. But what would close this gap? What would make Coinbase and Circle, well, not really very relevant? Well, a major U.S. banking partnership or a banking network. So let's say you have a network of banks that choose to go with Ripple for their back end. You're moving money between institutions. You're using their preferred method. Well, that would trump Coinbase, and it wouldn't even be close here. Or another competitive exchange. Coinbase in the U.S. is the biggest, but you have a lot of other big ones out there. We see they're doing a lot with Gemini. Could that be something that could be built out over time? Who knows? We will see here. RLUSD on a consumer application with real users. That could happen. We could see partnerships here. Again, Ripple will be dealing with the institution, but the institution will be servicing retail users, consumers, things like that. I think that's what we will see more so than Ripple, directly servicing retail users. Ripple winning a regulated U.S. corridor deal. Again, very possible. So plenty of areas. This is more of the retail market. But there's plenty of paths here where really Ripple and RLUSD and the XRP ledger could catch up and take a lot of this market share that it seems like, at least now, Coinbase and USDC are capturing with ETHEREUM L2s. All right, Stellar, the closest structural rival to XRP ledger, Circle partnership, active remittance corridors in Africa, Southeast Asia. MoneyGram history on Stellar is still a relationship that matters. This is not an irrelevant chain, of course. It's one I don't have an investment in. Maybe I should. And it's one of that directly contests the same market segments with similar technological architecture and a long track record in live international corridors. So they have, the history there, the proven capabilities, a lot of similar partnerships. And this is underrated. Stellar doesn't need to win globally. It just needs its own 2 to 3 key emerging markets to really, take a lot of payment volume here. Africa, remittances and parts of Southeast Asia are already partially wired through Stellar rails. If XRPL doesn't show up there with liquidity and local partners, Stellar locks in that infrastructure. So again, Stellar can have a lot of success here in key corridors and take a lot of payment volume. Now, this is interesting. Bitcoin Lightning, again, the worst tech there is distribution, a regulatory certainty win, technologically inferior to XRP Ledger in almost every single dimension, but it still wins corridors that we should own. Strike, Cash App, real merchant integrations in El Salvador, Philippines. The Lightning question was never technical. It's about distribution, and the fact that Bitcoin being categorically settled as a commodity changes the regulatory calculus in Lightning's favor, at least until we get regulated rules here in the United States. And that's going to change that. But I think it's beyond that. I think it's beyond regulations because, again, XRP Ledger has a judge saying this is a commodity here in the U.S. I think what it is people want Bitcoin. The users of these networks, they literally just want Bitcoin, so they'll use worse technology to get the asset they want. And so I think that's what we're seeing here. But this really won't contend with stable coins or 3-second payments, even XRP payments that can be swapped into other things. I don't think this is really a huge competitor for these other systems, but it's one that will have success because, again, people are always going to want Bitcoin and they want crypto-centric type of payments. There's going to be a place for Lightning. It's not really going to contend, though, with what we're talking about here. Solana Play is doing real merchant volume and small dollar transactions where, well, XRP hasn't showed up yet, and it should because this was the original micro payment network. XRP Ledger really came out with that first. The threat here is not really raw TPS. XRPL can handle throughput. The threat is Solana is building consumer-facing payment infrastructure with real merchant integration with XRP Ledger. The honest question again, does XRPL, does it really care about these consumer payments? The case for yes, consumer adoption creates liquidity depth that makes institutional corridors cheaper. The case for no, XRP's value prop is wholesale. Let Solana have Chipotle win the Swift type of market. Again, there's going to be lots of winners. You can't take it all. Maybe we say, hey, Solana can have all these little micro payments and all this little retail use cases, and XRP Ledger and really more specifically Ripple goes after the bigger institutional stuff. We'll see. Now, Flare, this is the one that riled the most people up because they're like, you idiot, don't you understand? Flare is complementary. Flare helps the XRP Ledger, and they said, and Ripple has a partnership with Flare. Listen, these are decentralized technologies. And when you look at Flare, lightning fast payments, stable coins, DeFi, it has it all, and it has data. How do you know? How do you know that JP Morgan doesn't look at Flare and go, you know what? That's a heck of a blockchain. It's just as fast. It's just as cheap. We have all this other stuff. We're going to build out a payment system on Flare. Or anyone else, Bank of America, some overseas bank, some Ripple competitor. You don't know who's going to build on Flare. You just got to look at capability here. And when you look at the Flare network, it's got the capability. Now, you can't have a partnership with a decentralized technology. You just have to look at the stack and say, could someone potentially build something competitively with this? Maybe Hugo's not going to do that because he has no incentive to do so. He wants to have the symbiotic relationship, but you don't know everyone building on Flare won't want to be a competitor, and it's very possible. I think the bigger takeaway here is not that Flare or the FLR token is a threat to XRP, but it could be a beast within payments. There's a lot of use cases you could build out, and when you look at this coin, where it's under 1 cent right now, and it could be great within payments, DeFi, interoperability, artificial intelligence, this chain has the capability to do it all. And I think it's the most undervalued of any blockchain out there. You look at how long it took a lot of blockchains, Cardano, to get smart contracts on the blockchain. That was just last bull run in 2021 when we saw that happen. They're moving at a blistering pace, and it's been unfortunate because they haven't had the big altcoin run yet. If they would, FLR token already be high, everyone would know about it, and we'd be in a different spot. We haven't went through that type of growth phase within crypto yet, but once we do, it's going to be a game changer for Flare, and then you're going to have a lot of value that the Flare team can dip into to really continue to build this out. They're doing a lot for a network that has yet to have a major bull run. It's unbelievable it hasn't happened yet, but when it does, that's going to change the landscape, and I'm telling you, this is a blockchain that's going to compete with anyone on this planet. Doesn't mean, again, you worry about Flare if you have XRP or Ethereum or anything else. There's a lot here for blockchains to go out and capture, but this is significant. This is a blockchain with capability, and it can contend for any use case out there, and I think it will in a lot of areas. You let me know down below what you think. Are there any blockchains I left off? Is there ones specifically to the use case of payments? Again, we could have went with quite a few different blockchains out there that would be competitive. These are just the 5 I picked. Let me know if you have any that I left off.